Afternoon, everybody. So my name is Ted Orm. I'm Field CTO for integration here at Qlik. I'm going to be mainly talking today around Iceberg, around the why behind Iceberg, and around why the importance in the industry, where Iceberg sits, and where we are the leading independent vendor for integration to optimize the storage layer for whatever query engines you may have running again this industry of the Snowflakes, the Databricks, the Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and the like, where our analytics tools can pick up the story from there. So the first bit of the presentation is a little bit around just the why behind Iceberg, the industry, the perspective, and again, we don't sell Iceberg. Iceberg is an open table format, but there are lessons learned from the industry in order that the why behind making Iceberg, as I think the standard for storage to support this world of AI and the multi-agentic framework that everyone is talking about that is going to be consuming data. But a little bit of background first about myself and just where I sit within the organization. Qlik, you may already be aware, is an analytics company. Has been now for 30 years. We've been a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader in the analytics space for 15 years in a row, but ultimately, has changed dramatically over the last 7 or 8 years because we understood that data is much more than just analytics. It's all around integration analytics and bringing that world together. And when I'll have some slides near the end that talk about the full portfolio, full offering of what we have around integration, bringing CDC, real-time data, transformation. We bought Talent, if you heard of Talent, in that space for transformation, and giving choice to our customers about moving data in any format, in any platform, ELT, ETL, data governance, data lineage. But Iceberg is ultimately where we're making some big bets. Where we're making some big bets because we've been through this cycle many times before. Look, when Teradata launched their first data warehouse back in the 80s, they came to the industry and they said, look, we have this single source of truth for all of your data, put it in whether or not it's a Kimball, third normal form data warehouse or Inman sort of model-driven design, the data warehouse is going to solve all of your challenges. But ultimately, what they were looking to do is everybody from the data warehousing platforms, Teradata and Netezza and the like, and then the Hadoop platforms, and now Snowflake and Databricks and Synapse and Azure and AWS, they want to be a single stack. They want to say, give us all of your data in this one data platform, and then all of the business can come and consume it from that platform. But the reality is that line of business choose their own pools. One team likes Snowflake, one team likes Databricks, one team is all in on the Microsoft stack, one is on AWS. You have a hybrid multiple approach, you still have legacy on-premise, and who knows what the next platform might be in the next platform. I've had a really good morning this morning, actually, walking around talking to quite a lot of vendors who I didn't really know before, who say they are better and faster and cheaper than Snowflake, or better and faster and cheaper than Data. Snowflake and Databricks are now the target that everyone is now looking to replace. It wasn't that long ago when they were the new and the shiny kids on the block, and that they can answer all of your use cases. So what have we learned? What have we learned in this journey from a warehouse to a data lake to now a lake house? We've learned that one size doesn't fit all, and that the open table format and Iceberg really is the engine, or not the engine, the area you should be investing your research to understand how you can support Iceberg going forward, because who knows what the next engine might be? Who knows what the next compute might be? Who knows what's going to happen when quantum computing really takes off and works against all of this data that you hold within the enterprise? So ultimately, there is only one standard that we understand, and it's that your data in whatever industry you're working in, whether or not that's in manufacturing or retail or telcos or the like, your data should be at the heart of your data platform strategy. And Iceberg, it really is the table format that I think is won the battle and is going to be the format of choice going forwards. And why is that? It's because It's because of the battles you see in the cloud. I mean, look, I'm the tech leader that actually I look after our relationships with Snowflake and Databricks. I look after our relationships with Microsoft and Amazon and Google and the likes. And so we have a huge number of customers. When I come to talk about some customer use case stories, we have a lot of customers on all of these data platforms. But ultimately, it shouldn't be a fight between them. The compute, what they want the data in order to charge you against compute. And compute is the only variable that is really going to be fought over the next few years. Storage is now pretty much ubiquitous and sort of free across all of the data platforms. And storage layer sits underneath then Iceberg. Iceberg is the open table format that sits on top of the storage layer. But the lessons learned, let's go back to that first component I talked about around Teradata or Cloudera or Hortonworks or MapR. If we remember the data lakes in sort of 10 years ago and the Hadoop platforms, put all of your data in a data lake and you will magically get value out of it. It didn't happen. You got a swamp. The swamp of data that was in there, and only really complex and high-end enterprise customers got value. Yes, we still have a lot of Cloudera customers in the big financial space, the big telcos, things like that, but they've spent millions and millions on that in order to get value. Open table formats and Iceberg really is changing the way in which you can use data because it can be consumed by anybody. This is the important box here. This is the important here, the query engines. And this is where you won't see, there's no Qlik sign in that box. There's no Qlik sign in that box because we are the leading independent vendor for data integration and data analytics, data quality and data lineage to bring real-time data to Iceberg, to storage, to Cloudera, to Hortonworks, no longer Hortonworks, to Snowflake, Databricks, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. We are streaming real-time data out of any operational thing and bringing it to the data platforms, but we are not the data platform ourselves. We hold that independence, and we optimize Iceberg. That's the key part that will come on some of the technology of what we're doing underneath the hood. Optimizing Iceberg for those query engines. So when I make statements like we can optimize your platforms to be 5x or 10x faster, we're not 5x and 10x faster, then Snowflake is 5 times faster, Databricks is 10 times faster, Trino and Consul, the platforms you're building, the compute engines, we optimize the storage layer and Iceberg underneath those engines so that we reduce your Snowflake bill by 50%. We reduce your Databricks bill by 40, 50%. These are by optimizing the queries and through optimizing the storage layer, we make the whole platform better and run faster and be more optimized for this next wave of AI and analytics that we're seeing in many of the other sessions and ourselves as well. So where do we sit? We are also an analytics engine. That's our component. That's the Qlik View to Qlik Sense, where our Qlik Cloud lives. Our in-memory process for analytics to gain fast access out of data. We have a huge install base of over 25,000 customers using us for our Qlik Sense products for analytics. And from the integration point of view, I'll lean in over and over to being that independent story. Actually, even just last week, with now Informatica being bought by Salesforce, that's sort of taken away probably our biggest competitor in the ETL space and integration space and the like. I've recently been over in Dubai and Saudi, and we are very, very committed to our on-premise offerings, what I'll call our client-managed. A lot of our large banking customers, financial organizations, governments, defense contracts that we have, what we call the sovereign data story of keeping data within data centers in secure, reliable platforms. We are also the leaders of that functionality. Also helping customers go to the cloud, but we're not a cloud-only offering. Many other integration products and customers you see out here today are only in the cloud and only cloud offerings. We are hybrid for both on-premise and cloud, or the combination of the two, meaning that we help the on-premise environments as well as the multi-cloud platforms. But understanding this picture, understanding the components that sit around Iceberg to make that work better, that really is the engine that helps us in this next wave of technology. And it's not just us. Again, just to be clear. Like I say, my relationships with AWS, with Microsoft, with Google, all of the hyperscalers are supporting and putting investments into Iceberg. And why is that also? It's because you may often hear the sort of the ingest costs between platforms. All big enterprises have been burnt. A lot of the big telco customers we have went all in on GCP sort of 4 or 5 years ago, putting all of their data into Dataproc or Google BigQuery, and then they want to run some processes on AWS or some process on Azure, and Google charges them hundreds and thousands of dollars just to get that data out of their cloud. They're the costs associated to the hyperscalers, to the platforms itself, the lock-in that the main stack vendors are putting into the technology. And Iceberg is the thing that is breaking that, because once you've written out data and store it in the format of Iceberg, anybody will be able to read and access it. And the query engines will be independent of the storage layer. So again, where are we sitting and how do we help that? By optimizing that storage layer, by optimizing the underlying Iceberg structures, everybody benefits. And I'm not going to tell you that Snowflake is better than Databricks, that GCP is better than AWS or Azure, because the use case should drive the engine. And the pattern, the pipeline, the integration there will support not one but many. And this is that data fabric to a data mesh methodology, in that the fabric brings all of the data in an IT world, bringing all of your operational data up to Iceberg. And then the mesh is that data product methodology, where the business comes and consumes that data and runs it against an engine based on the use case. So machine learning and Spark is great for some use cases, whereas Snowflake and data warehousing platforms are better for others. Machine learning and predictive modeling is running good in Trino and other. Kafka is good for you run KSQL on top of Kafka for streaming real-time operational data. Again, the use case should drive the technology stack, not the underlying sort of, just the fact that I've written my data into Microsoft. I have to now use their tools and only their tools. So Iceberg is breaking that so that we can bring the data to an open table format, and then everybody will be fighting for the compute based on what is best for the use case rather than the stack itself. So, again, just some sort of reference data points to understand, the rise of Iceberg, the investments that are going into it, and why Microsoft and AWS are collaborating, why Google and Snowflake are collaborating, because they see the industry going that way of openness. And openness is, they are fearful of being, locked in. Our favorite tech company of the last decade is Palantir, but Palantir ultimately are a big lock-in of that data, and the expense and the bill you have to pay for that. It's ultimately just a Spark engine that runs within their compute. If you can open that, unlock that, and bring it into an open table format like Iceberg, then all of value that is in Palantir can be used by anybody in other platforms as well. So it is breaking an industry to expose and make data usable to different platforms. And it all comes back to cost. Ultimately, it comes back to cost. Snowflake had massive growth and massive success, but everybody is acknowledging that their Snowflake bills are going up without much additional value. They're changing their license models in order to truly align how use cases meet the consumption of the cloud platforms. Likewise, Databricks. Databricks, I'm such a big fan of Databricks. It has great use cases, but pretty much 50% of all Databricks pipelines are actually just running ETL. People throwing data into Databricks and then running compute directly in it. Databricks is not an ETL vendor. It's a great compute engine. You shouldn't really be using Databricks just for ETL. But because a lot of data engineers run Python and run processes, and they have full control of their platform, a lot of the compute is just being used for grunt work of transformation rather than the value in the platform itself. So this is where costs and the FinOps Foundation, it's really, I was hoping that they would be here at this sub-event, really look into the FinOps Foundation. The FinOps Foundation is an independent framework to understand costs of cloud compute, and the FinOps Foundation is sitting on top of AI, and they're building frameworks specifically around Iceberg and how that supports the industry. If you don't know about the FinOps Foundation, I really would recommend you look into them. You can join. It's one of those sort of free membership type things to understand frameworks, understand technology. But FinOps, sitting alongside Iceberg, is where we're going to see a lot of industry trends drive adoption and drive use cases. So, just to be clear here, I'm not selling Iceberg. I'm just like, I work for Qlik. We're a software company. But I truly believe the industry has changed dramatically, and Iceberg is we're making a big bet supporting Iceberg because we see that as becoming the standard. Just very much almost like S3 became a standard for the first wave of cloud, even though that was just within the AWS stack. Iceberg, it has, I believe, won the battle as being the open table format for any compute engine running on any cloud. Why is that? It's because it is fully ACID compliance. You can do time series data against it, so you can roll back time data. It looks like a warehouse, it looks like a lake, and it has all of this functionality, this spec that sits on top of it. But ultimately, it is just a spec. Iceberg sits on top of S3. It sits on top of data proc. It sits on top of storage layers, and it optimizes that for those engines. But it's not magic. There are pains, there are problems. Ultimately, if you don't understand how the underlying structures truly work, you're going to get into trouble. If you're moving lots of IoT data out of sensors and out of and moving that, we have customers that are moving literally petabyte scale data directly into Iceberg for multiple use cases. But it creates then, a million 10K files. Now you run any query against a million 10K files, the compute against that is going to be horrendous, and that's the cost. If you don't clean up, if you don't optimize, if you don't make the data partitioned in a nice way, clean up orphan jobs, clean up temporary files, and all of this sort of structure, you will feel the pain that Hadoop and the data lakes had in that wave sort of 10 years ago. And as such, understanding the structures underneath, understanding how we can optimize the Iceberg platform is where we really are helping organizations save massively and see the platform of choice into the future. So this is really where we are helping organizations, and so far it's the big snowflakes, it's the big industrial manufacturing that's in Databricks. They're the customers that really have seen massive value in that we're optimizing the underlying structures to their data platform. And this is really where it's very it's very demonstrable. You can easily show it because we're running compute clusters in our customers' environments. So we're not running it ourselves. We're running compute within AWS, within our customer platforms, in order to optimize in the data that we deliver. I'll come to the architecture in a few slides' time. But yes, we can move data faster into the platform, which is that left-hand side. But this side, this is the one that is really changing the way in which Iceberg is being adopted fast within an organization, because we're optimizing the platform underneath. Just a sort of an architect, I've got a few more of these types of architectural slides to see where we sit. Again, just remind a little bit about Qlik and who we are. We're an analytics company on one side of the business. I'll come to those pictures in a few minutes, and an integration company. The integration component is ultimately that we move any data from any platform through CDC, real-time data, change data capture, streaming real-time data. We can transform that on-premise, in the cloud, across multiple cloud with ETL or push down ELT. That means pushing the SQL transformation into Snowflake, into Databricks, into Google BigQuery, wherever the compute engine sits, and then govern that through trusted data, through data lineage, data quality, data rules, in order to create a trust score of data, all sitting on top of Iceberg. But Iceberg is not, it's not the only one. We can also support just Postgres or Oracle or SQL or Redshift or any of the target platforms itself. And what are we seeing in some of the metrics? Actually, this is about 2 or 3 months old. We've seen some really great numbers recently. Ultimately, there are 2 or 3 other vendors out here that are offering optimizations. Again, Snowflake themselves offer optimizations. Look, Databricks spent, what was it, $2.4 billion on Tabular. Why did they do that? Why did they do that? Tabular were the founders and the main people that developed the Apache open source Iceberg sort of 3-4 years ago. They spent those billions of dollars for 34 employees. Think of that for a minute. They bought $2.4 billion, and they bought 34 employees. Why? Because Databricks are now adding value and adding functionality in their stack on top of Iceberg. That's great if you're all in on Databricks. But what about if the next engine is something else, or the next engine? They're not doing that for free. They're not doing that for it's a great platform, but they're adding value and locking you in up the stack. Whereas we are adding value underneath the foundation layer for the stack. For optimizing anybody, we optimize for Databricks and Snowflake and all of the compute engines there may be, and that is really where our differentiation sits. That's how we differentiate ourselves from the stack vendors, from other integration tools that are unique to their platforms itself. And what we're seeing is massive improvements. I mean, it really is, for certain types of data, it's literally sort of 50 to 100 times optimizing it, especially for certain IoT data and sensor data, really, really fast data that comes out of other transactional systems, that comes out of Oracle and mainframe and DB2 and the like. When you bring transactional data in high throughputs, optimizing it for batch loading and for queries really does improve the overall platform. So, pause for a second just there as I move on to the next bit of the slides. Just this. The next bit of the slides are a little bit who we are as a company, and I'll go into some of the use cases and some customer stories. Because Qlik are well known for analytics. This is where we've been, like I say, a market leader for over 15 years in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for analytics. And through acquisition, we bought a company called Untitled. I came from that side of the beds. That's where our CDC technology sits. And we bought Talent just two and a half years ago now. And as such, our full portfolio is both integration and analytics. And as such, it's a conversation around data to help customers get value. But ultimately, we have a huge install base from integration and a huge install base from analytics, and we're bringing those two worlds together. And that is challenging in an industry today, because we are not a full stack vendor. We're not looking to be the Microsofts, the Amazon, the Google. We're not looking to force you to store it within our platform itself. It's that independence is where we sit from integration and analytics, best of breed of both on whatever platforms you're choosing today. And as such, we break it into two parts. And again, this slide gets a bit busy. And again, we're more than happy to share these slides. If you want to, we probably scanned you coming in and things like that. There's nothing sort of secret and proprietary here. But this is the full portfolio from our integration side. Our integration side is such that we can move any data. We can move any data on-premise or from the cloud, any SaaS application, but our uniqueness is really around CDC from the moving components. CDC stands for Change Data Capture, capturing real-time changes out of Oracle and SQL and DB2, and we've made big investments around SAP and mainframe. Really, we are the market leaders of moving real-time data from SAP, moving real-time data out of mainframe, and that's Z as well as IMS and any old flavors, into any target platform. And then transformation. And transformation, again, you're going to hear me say this, we're giving you choice. We give you choice. Do you want to run transformation within Snowflake? Do you want to run it on-premise with ETL? Do you want to run it within Databricks? There is no free lunch in T. You have to transform data to make it usable for the business, and it is never free. There's always a cost, and that compute cost, giving you choice. Where do you want that compute to run? Do you want to run it in the cloud and the hyperscalers and all the compute there? Or do you want to run it within our cloud? Or do you want to run it on Kubernetes clusters within your data center, within your own environment? We're giving you choice about where does that T sit. And then we get on to trust. So data quality, data lineage, data governance, and again, we are the market leaders within that space with our AI trust score and our data product trust score to understand the KPIs around your data. Gartner Magic Quadrant also for 6 years in a row for data quality. I'll come to Gartner in a minute, and data analytics. And then we get to the data product. The data product is the gateway between IT and the business. Who creates data products? Ultimately, it's the business owners. They understand the data, and IT is delivering the data to them. And that gateway of where you have the data product, that's where the component sits between the two sides of our portfolio. because the data product can be picked up and then we build applications. And this is our portfolio for the analytics platform that, again, has been a market leader for over 15 years. We're founded out of Sweden 30 years ago, and this is really where we compete with Power BI and Tableau and Looker and the like. But ultimately, we're not looking to be just a dashboard visualization tool. We do so much more out of the platform. We have, with AI built in, we do predictive analytics. We have a chat GPT-like experience called Qlik Answers that sits on top of the data, so you can have a conversation with data and get value out of it. All of our analytics portfolio is again independent of our integration portfolio, sitting depending on which platforms you're building. So we will bring the data to the platform, and then we will run analytics on top of the data in whatever compute you're running within whatever cloud platform you're providing. So end to end, we have a full portfolio. Thank you. We have a full portfolio that helps customers get value out of data. Full integration, full analytics, end-to-end. Our SaaS platform runs on AWS, but actually 50% of our business is still very much on-premise, helping customers in complex workloads in an on-premise environment for both integration and analytics. We are not, even though our SaaS runs on AWS, most of our business is moving data to hyperscalers of any platform. We don't have to stream data through our SaaS platform. We have a gateway component that moves data wherever you need it on whatever platform it runs today. And that's really where we see Iceberg as winning the battle in the middle, as being the open table format to support whatever the use case is. Integration analytics, end to end, this is really where Qlik's uniqueness in the market is helping us stand apart from the hyperscalers, stand apart from Snowflake and Databricks, because they are selling they're selling storage and compute, and we support that in whatever the use case sits, from integration or analytics. And I mentioned the strategic partnerships here. It's really weird when we sometimes see ourselves competing with Microsoft for something, or we may be competing with Google or something. Snowflake, we were the data integration partner of the year for them this year. We have huge customer base that are moving data directly into Snowflake and getting the full platform of their compute engines. Databricks, like I say, many of our manufacturing customers, many of our are all on the Databricks platforms. GCP is very, very popular within the telco space, so Vodafone, Telefonica, BT, all customers of ours working with GCP and then running analytics. And financial organizations like Zurich, like Generali, like AXA, like Allianz, Aviva, they're all big companies that we are moving their data to the cloud, to the compute engines of choice, and then running analytics against that. Independent data is where our message sits. Whatever data platform you're choosing, whatever compute engines you're running on, we can help you optimize the integration layer and bring our best-of-breed analytics to that platform to run both prescriptive and predictive and generative AI on top of that. That is really where Qlik's uniqueness is in the market, and where we're helping organizations get the most value out of their data. And one final slide that just sort of summarizes who we are in one nutshell. And the key part that I'm going to highlight here is just this part here. Gartner, love them, hate them, whatever it may be. We are leaders in 3 Gartner Magic Quadrants. Data integration now for 10 years, there's 9 there, for 10 years we've been a leader of data integration. Data quality now for 6 years, and data analytics for 14 years. There is no other company here or anywhere that exists that is a leader in those 3 Gartner Magic Quadrants. Microsoft aren't, AWS aren't, SAP, IBM, Oracle, no other company is a leader in those 3 Gartner Magic Quadrants, because this is our expertise. This is what we do. We help our customers get value out of data on whatever platform they're running, on-premise, in the cloud, across multiple clouds, with best-of-breed analytics and AI built in to drive the overall platform. I have a whole presentation around AI. I didn't want to talk about that today. I have another colleague tomorrow who's going to do a session specifically around AI and what we're doing around enhancing our use case around AI and delivering value specifically around all the new bells and whistles we're delivering. Today I was going to talk about Iceberg. I truly believe that Iceberg is changing the data landscape. But lessons learned, if you don't build the right platforms, the right framework to make Iceberg successful, you will again fall foul to too much cost, too much unoptimized platforms. We are that leading independent vendor. Iceberg truly is, I believe, the platform of choice or the technology of choice for the future. And if you want to learn more than happy to share more about customer stories, customer examples we've helped in the past. We have a booth here, or reach out directly. I'm more than happy to share more. Thank you very much.